Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a pretty uncomfortable truth about how we view ourselves, specifically how we define our own willpower. A lot of us look at the days we actually showed up, the times we pushed through a really tough task, or those moments we finally finished a massive project and we build an entire identity around it. We tell ourselves, I'm a disciplined person. But then the pressure hits. Real, crushing, inconvenient pressure, and the absolute truth comes out. So this explainer is going to walk us through the illusion of discipline. We're going to hold up 10 harsh mirrors and see what's actually reflecting back at us.
Here's a pretty stark warning from our source material. Discipline is not what you do when it's convenient. It's not what happens on those good days when your energy's peaking, you got a solid 8 hours of sleep, the plan makes perfect sense, and everything is just clicking. Let's be totally honest with ourselves here. Literally anyone can be disciplined on a day like that. In reality, that's just momentum wearing a costume. Real discipline shows up when the fire's completely gone, when nobody's watching to hand you a gold star, and when your own brain is handing you every perfectly logical excuse to just fold.
So what this means is we need a completely honest audit of our lives right now. And I don't mean a cruel one, I mean an honest one. Because there is a massive difference between beating yourself up and just telling yourself the truth. One of those weakens you, but the other one frees you. Recognizing the gap between that polished story you tell everyone else and the actual standard you live by in private is truly the only way to build unshakable strength. So let's start digging into exactly where the fake, fragile versions of discipline have been hiding in our daily routines.
Let's kick things off with number 1, the feeling fallacy, or when motivation becomes a trap.
The very first sign that you might not be as disciplined as you think is that you keep falling for the illusion of feeling ready. You know the feeling, right? Waiting for that sudden burst of motivation before you take action, or demanding absolute perfect circumstances, or maybe just quietly quitting the second the process stops feeling good. Think about how many times you've delayed starting a new habit until a Monday just because it felt weird to start on a Thursday. Or maybe you bailed on a run because it was slightly drizzling. Look, it sounds harmless. We all like to feel fired up before jumping into a project. But when you depend on a feeling to start, you are literally handing over the steering wheel of your life to things you can't control. Moods are exactly like the weather. They come, they go, and honestly, they lie to you. If your discipline is totally conditional on a great night's sleep and perfect conditions, well, it isn't discipline. You're just temporarily lucky.
And this brings us to a really powerful redefinition of a word most of us tend to run away from: discomfort. We naturally think that if it hurts or if there's heavy friction, something must be going wrong, so we stop. But discomfort is not a signal to stop. Discomfort is the fee. It's the mandatory price of admission to absolutely everything in this world worth having. That resistance you feel when you're tired isn't your plan failing, it's actually the plan working. It is the exact, precise moment where growth happens. The disciplined person feels the exact same discomfort you do. Their nerve endings work perfectly fine. They just completely refuse to obey it. This all builds into a super actionable strategy. It's the real sequence of action, and it just so happens to be the secret that undisciplined folks never seem to learn. Step 1, you move first, regardless of how you feel. Step 2, the motivation catches up. It's wild, but most people operate completely backward their entire lives. They wait for the spark, but the absolute truth is you have to execute the task flat. You got to do it tired. You have to do it with zero enthusiasm. That feeling of motivation you were waiting for on the couch, it's always waiting for you just past the starting line.
Moving on to number 2, the performance, managing image over character.
Okay, this one cuts deep. I want you to consider the vast difference between your public face and your private standard. A lot of folks show up razor sharp when there's an audience. They hit the deadline when the boss is watching, they speak with incredible conviction in the boardroom, and they push super hard at the gym when their workout buddy is standing right there. But close the door, take away the witnesses, remove the accountability partner, and the standard just completely collapses. That is image management, not discipline. The true, absolute test of your character is what you do when it costs you absolutely nothing to quit. When there are zero consequences, no scoreboard, and absolutely no applause.
You might actually just be performing discipline if you find yourself heavily relying on external alarms, a bunch of productivity apps, and accountability partners just to force yourself into action. Or maybe you broadcast your intentions super loudly on social media, seeking that early applause over quiet, steady results. If you can't sit down and do the deep work without constant external pressure and validation, then that discipline was never truly yours. You were just riding someone else's discipline.
Now, don't get me wrong, in the very beginning, using scaffolding like a tough alarm clock or a partner is perfectly fine, but the ultimate goal is to internalize that standard so deeply that you'd still execute even if every reminder in the world suddenly disappeared. It really boils down to this simple, unbending rule. The louder someone talks about their discipline, the more you should watch their hands, not their mouth. Sure, it feels incredible to talk about the person you're going to become. When you detail your grand plans to your friends, it triggers a dopamine release in your brain that feels almost exactly like actually achieving the goal. But talking can actively satisfy the exact hunger that would have driven you to do the hard work. You end up spending the fuel meant for action on the cheap pleasure of describing it. The truly disciplined person is very often the quietest person in the room. They just let their undeniable results do all the talking.
Which brings us to number 3, the motion fake-out, deceptive action and busyness.
Busyness is incredibly sneaky because it wears the mask of virtue. Have you ever collapsed into bed, totally exhausted by 9 p.m., having checked 20 minor things off your list and told yourself you were incredibly disciplined today? But were you really? Or is busyness just the most sophisticated form of procrastination used to avoid the one single thing that actually matters? We've all been there. Suddenly deciding that color-coding our email inbox or deep cleaning an already clean desk is a highly urgent priority. And it's all just to avoid sitting in the discomfort of brave, difficult, needle-moving work. But remember, 10 highly focused minutes on the right thing will always beat 3 hours of frantic motion on the wrong things. This tendency creates a continuous cycle of false starts. It's what I call the graveyard of good intentions. Just think about the life cycle of almost every new ambitious goal. Day 1 is pure excitement. Starting feels amazing. You got the new gear, you download the app, it comes with fresh energy and a totally clean slate. But by day 9, the crushing boredom sets in. The routine isn't shiny anymore. And by day 14, we see a complete and total drop-off. True discipline does not live at the starting line, because literally anyone can start. True discipline lives right there in the mundane, boring metal stretch. Right where the novelty has completely worn off, the work is tedious, and the results haven't even shown up yet.
And that drop-off inevitably leads to the bargaining trap. Do you ever find yourself renegotiating commitments when you're tired? Like, you set your alarm for 5 a.m. the night before with absolute clarity, but when it goes off in the dark and it's cold, you start doing the math. You convince yourself that 6 a.m. is basically the exact same thing, and hey, your body probably needs the rest anyway. Or do you hide behind a single strength, like using an incredible obsessive work ethic in your career to completely mask a chaotic personal life or terrible financial habits? When you do this, your entire internal structure gets soft. You teach your own brain that your commitments are actually negotiable, and pretty soon you can't trust a single promise you make to yourself.
So, the absolutely crucial point to remember here is this. The moment of action is not the moment of decision. If you're standing there at 5 a.m. still actively deciding whether or not it's time to act, you've already lost the battle. The tired, weak, half-awake version of you has absolutely no business voting on the commitments that the strong, clear, determined version of you already made the night before. You have to make the decision once when you're strong, and then you absolutely refuse to reopen the negotiation at the table when you are weak.
Finally, we arrive at number 4, the honest standard and finding your starting line. Okay, so we just went through 10 signs, 10 incredibly harsh mirrors of truth. And if you're really being honest with yourself, more than one of them probably found you during this explainer. Honestly, maybe several of them hit dangerously close to home. But listen, that doesn't mean you're weak. It means you can finally see clearly. Stripping away the illusion is the very first step toward actually building the real thing. And here's the incredible grace and freedom in all of this. You do not need to fix all 10 of these tonight. You don't have to become a perfectly disciplined, unbreakable machine by tomorrow morning. Growth is a process, and demanding instant perfection from yourself is really just another form of the bargaining trap. So your instruction for today is beautifully simple. Pick the one sign that landed the hardest, just the single flaw that stung your chest the most while we were going through these topics together. That sting, that's your map. Every single place you flinched is exactly where you need to point your focus right now. Take that one flaw and quietly, steadily, go to work on it. Do it without announcing it to the world on social media. Do it without waiting for a Monday or waiting to feel ready. Just do it without needing an audience, a pat on the back, or a round of applause. So, out of all those mirrors we held up today, which one stung the most? Now that you can see the distinct, undeniable gap between the polished story you tell and the standard you actually live when no one's watching, what's next? Are you going to just keep talking about the incredible person you're going to become one day? Or will you finally close your mouth, open your hands, and actually start doing the work? The choice is entirely yours.
Keep walking straight through the discomfort, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.